In this second video, we will continue by looking at why observations and predictions are harder in social sciences. Well, generally in social sciences, we are looking at human behavior, and it's pretty difficult to predict human behavior. However, what we generally do is we try to look at the collective behavior. So, economists' predictions generally refer to the collective behavior of a large group. When you look at the collective pattern of actions, it becomes possible to predict. But if you simply look at individual behaviors, then you may find a lot of variability. But when you put it together and look at it as a collective, then it becomes really interesting, and that is what we generally do. Now, it's important to distinguish between correlation and causation. Causation simply means one event causes another. And for an event to cause another, that event has to happen before the other one. Let's take a simple example. If, for example, you find that sales have gone down and prices have gone up, generally, for sales to go down, if the drop in sales is caused by the increase in prices, it means the increase in prices has to occur before the fall in prices. Here, for example, we are saying you have certain events that occur. Icy roads, reduced speeds, more accidents. What happens before the other and what causes the other? That simply helps you to know what causes another, and generally, economic theory has to support what you are putting together. Now, we have what is called the fallacy of composition, which means if something is true for an individual, it is not necessarily true for a group. For example, you go to a concert and you can't see very well. You stand up, then you see better. Now, that does not mean if everyone stands up, they will all see better, because maybe when everyone stands up, they now start getting in the way of another. So that's just it. Because it works for you, it doesn't mean if everyone does it, it's going to work for them, because maybe they start getting in the way of one another. Let's take a look at the concept of positive analysis and normative analysis. When you are looking at positive analysis, it is an objective, value-free approach. It uses the scientific method. In other words, it's based on facts. Where is the data? That is it. Show me the facts. While normative analysis is subjective, it is really opinion based, because you are saying what should happen. It is not based on what is, it is based on, given that we have these facts, what should we do? You can see income should be more equally distributed. There's that aspect of should. It's more normative. And that is where you generally have disagreement. At times people say economists disagree all the time. Actually, they don't disagree on the facts. They may disagree on what to do now that we have the facts. So the majority of disagreements in economics stems from normative issues, because there you have value judgment. Let's get into the concept of scarcity. Now, what do we mean by scarcity, and what are goods and services? So scarcity is simply the situation that exists when human wants exceed available resources. So we don't have enough of the things we want. We have unlimited wants, but we can't have all of them because our resources are limited. So scarcity simply means resources are limited in supply. I repeat, scarcity has to do with resources being limited in supply. And what are the resources? You have four main types of resources. You have labor. Labor is just human effort. It can be physical or it can be mental. That is what labor is. So whenever you think of labor, think of human effort. Now, land is the second resource we'll talk about. You are looking at a natural resource. In order to know if something is land, just ask yourself, is this a free gift of nature? Is this a free gift of nature? So if you want to know if a bear or a lion is land, ask yourself, is a lion a free gift of nature? If your answer is yes, and of course it should be yes in this case, it means it's just land. That's in economics. That's how we classify it. Let's take a look at the third resource. We are looking at capital. Here we are talking of equipment and structures which are used to produce goods and services. Now, generally, the equipment and structures are man-made, and the purpose for making them is to use them to produce goods and services. For example, buildings, tools, machines, factories, man-made with the intention of using them to produce goods and services. We also have what is known as human capital. At times we can throw in financial capital, but we'll stop at human capital for now. This is simply the productive knowledge and skills people receive from education and on-the-job training. It falls under capital, and we call it human capital. Now, if we move on to the last one, we are talking of entrepreneurship. Now, the most important aspect of the entrepreneur is that the entrepreneur is able to identify an opportunity for profit, and in so doing takes risk. Now, what do they generally do? What they do is they get into the process of combining the other factors of production or the other resources. For example, they will reorganize labor, land, and capital. They will put them together in order to produce goods and services. And they, of course, decide what and how to produce the goods and services. They are able to improve productive techniques in order to produce new products. In so doing, they take risk, and what motivates them is profit. So that's who an entrepreneur is. Profit, risk characterizes them. Now, let's move on. What do we mean by goods and services? I have earlier mentioned goods are simply tangible items that we value or desire. We use resources, scarce resources, to produce goods. You can touch them. Services, you just cannot touch them. Let's talk about economic bads. Bads are those items that we do not desire or want. For example, garbage, pollution, and crime. And we try our best to get rid of bads. Now, let's talk about opportunity costs. Why do we have to make choices? Of course, we have earlier mentioned that all of that is because of scarcity. What do we give up when we have to choose? Why are free lunches not free? Or what do we mean when we say there is no free lunch in economics? So let's rapidly talk about that. Scarcity forces us to make choices. So because our resources are not unlimited, we have to make a choice because we cannot have all what we want. So that's the whole idea behind the study of economics. We could define economics as the study of choices we make among our many wants and desires. What do we mean by opportunity cost? So when you make a choice, the alternative you give up, when you make that choice, it's just your opportunity cost. For example, you've made a choice to watch this video. Now, if you were not watching this video, what will you be doing? Maybe sleeping, maybe eating, maybe hanging out with your friends. Now, take these different alternatives, rank them. So start by watching my economics video, sleeping, eating, hanging out with friends. When you rank them, the second on your list, because the first will be watching the video, the second on your list is simply what you gave up. Because if you had not been watching the video, you would have been doing that. So what you give up is simply your opportunity cost. So opportunity cost is the highest or best foregone opportunity resulting from a decision or a choice. So here we come to talk about a free lunch. Well, when you receive something and you don't pay for, someone paid for. In other words, resources are used to produce any good or service. So there's nothing like a free lunch or a free good or service. Maybe it's free because you did not pay for that. However, it's not free for society because scarce resources were used in order to produce that particular good. And when you are using goods or services without paying, we generally use the term that someone else has subsidized that. Someone has paid for that by using society's free resources. So in the next video, we will go to the fifth part, which is marginal thinking.